After years of caring for my sick father, my sister arrived at the funeral and declared, "He left me everything, you get nothing." The lawyer cleared his throat and said, actually, his last request was that we play this video first. My sister's smile dropped as my father's voice boomed through the room. "If you're watching this, then I knew you'd try to steal from your own blood." Dad's funeral was supposed to be a solemn farewell, but it turned into a confrontation I never expected. Growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, my sister Olivia and I were close. After Mom died when we were young, Dad raised us alone. Olivia was ambitious, always aiming for bigger things, while I stayed local, finding contentment in the familiar surroundings of our hometown. When Dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, his health declined steadily. I took on the role of caregiver, managing his medications, doctor visits, and daily needs. It was challenging, but I wanted to be there for him. Olivia, meanwhile, was absorbed in her career in New York City. Her visits became infrequent, and our conversations were sporadic. In the final months, Dad's condition worsened. He became bedridden, and communication was limited to brief moments of clarity. Despite the physical and emotional toll, I stayed by his side. Olivia was notably absent during this time. After Dad passed away, Olivia arrived for the funeral, exuding an air of detachment. The service at St. Michael's Church was somber, with friends and family sharing memories of Dad's kindness and resilience. Following the burial at Magnolia Cemetery, we gathered at Dad's house for the reading of his will. The atmosphere was tense. Olivia sat across from me, her posture rigid, eyes scanning the room as if assessing its value. Mr. Thompson, Dad's attorney, cleared his throat. "Before we proceed with the reading of the will, your father requested that we watch this video." He set up a laptop and pressed play. The screen flickered to life, showing Dad seated in his favorite armchair, looking frail but determined. "If you're watching this," Dad began, his voice steady. Then I anticipated this situation. Olivia's face paled, her confident demeanor slipping. Dad continued, "Olivia, I was aware of your attempts to alter my will in your favor. Despite my illness, I remained cognizant of your actions." I turned to Olivia, shock and betrayal coursing through me. "Is this true?" She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Dad's image on the screen sighed. "I hoped we could come together as a family, but it seems greed has taken hold. My final wishes are clear and will be honored." The video ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Mr. Thompson, looking uncomfortable, proceeded with the reading. "Your father has left the entirety of his estate, including this house, to you," he said, looking at me. "Olivia, you were bequeathed a sum of $10,000. Olivia shot up from her seat. "This is outrageous. After everything I've done, everything you've done." I interrupted, my voice rising. "You abandoned Dad when he needed us most. You left me to care for him alone, and now you expect to reap the rewards." Tears welled in her eyes, but I couldn't discern if they were from guilt or anger. Mr. Thompson interjected, "Your father was explicit in his wishes. He felt that his estate should go to the one who stood by him." Olivia stormed out, leaving a trail of tension behind her. In the days that followed, I tried to process the whirlwind of emotions. I mourned Dad, grappled with Olivia's betrayal, and faced the reality of managing the estate. Friends from the community offered support, reminding me of the strength Dad always saw in me. One evening, as the sun set over the Ashley River, I sat on the porch, reflecting on everything. The pain of Olivia's actions lingered, but I knew that harboring resentment would only poison my soul. Dad's voice echoed in my mind, reminding me of the importance of family and forgiveness. I reached for my phone and dialed Olivia's number. It rang several times before she answered. "Hello?" Her voice was cautious. "Olivia, it's me," I began, taking a deep breath. "I think we need to talk." There was a pause. "I don't know if there's anything left to say." "Maybe not," I admitted. "But Dad wouldn't want us to end up like this. Can we meet?" She hesitated before replying, "All right. Tomorrow at noon. See you then." The next day, we met at a cafe downtown. The conversation was strained at first, but as the hours passed, We began to bridge the chasm that had formed between us. Trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight, but it was a start. Dad's passing taught me many things, but most importantly, it underscored the fragility of family bonds. Olivia and I had a long road ahead, but for Dad's sake, and our own, I was willing to walk it. A week after the cafe meeting, things were calm on the surface, but tension still sat between us like an uninvited guest. Olivia said she wanted to make things right, that she acted out of fear and regret. I nodded. I told her it would take time. Inside, I wasn't sure I believed her. The house felt different without Dad in it. Quiet. Still. I started cleaning out his office, going through stacks of old papers, folders, and notebooks. He had a habit of writing everything down: notes, dates, reminders to call the doctor, even small grocery lists. That's when I found it. In the back of the drawer, hidden beneath a thick manila envelope, was a small leather notebook I'd never seen before. It had his handwriting on the cover, private. For my eyes only. I opened it carefully, flipping through the pages. Most were journal entries from the last 6 months of his life. The handwriting was shakier than usual, but the words were clear. June 4th, Olivia called again. Said she's flying in next week. Wants to talk about the will. Strange tone in her voice. I don't trust it. June 10th, Olivia showed up unannounced. Asked to see the papers. Pretended to cry. I think she believes I don't know she's already been in touch with Thompson. June 11th, caught her in the study when she thought I was asleep. She had copies of documents. Must have gone through the file cabinet. I sat back, heart pounding. It was worse than I thought. She hadn't just hoped for more in the will, she'd actively tried to interfere with it while he was alive. Then came the real twist. July 2nd, spoke with Thompson. I made the video today. I want to be sure there's no confusion. I also left another file with evidence. Just in case. Another file? I tore through the drawers again. Nothing in the office, so I checked the storage boxes in the attic. Dust coated everything, but in a box labeled Old Tax Records, I found a second manila folder taped shut. On the front was one word. Olivia. Inside were printed emails. Copies of text messages. Even a voice recording on an old USB drive. She had tried to coerce one of Dad's old friends, his banker, into changing the beneficiaries on a dormant account. She told him Dad was losing his memory, that she had power of attorney, she didn't, and that it would save the family trouble later. This wasn't just shady. This was criminal. I didn't know what to do. I sat there for a long time, holding the folder, thinking about everything. About how she cried at the funeral. About how she said she wanted to fix things. About how she lied. I didn't call her. Not yet. I called Thompson. He came over that same afternoon. I showed him the journal, the folder, the emails. He listened carefully, reading each page in silence. This changes things, he said slowly. I knew your father had concerns. I just didn't know how deep it went. Is it illegal? Could be. At the very least, it's attempted fraud. If we take this to court, it'll be messy. But she could face real consequences. What would Dad want? I asked. Thompson gave me a tired look. He left you everything because he trusted you to protect his legacy. He gave her one last chance to do the right thing. Maybe he hoped she would. That night, Olivia texted me. Thanks for meeting me last week. I hope we can move forward. I didn't reply. 2 days later, she showed up at the house again. This time, unannounced. She rang the bell, smiled like nothing had happened, and held out a bottle of wine. Thought we could talk. I know it's still tense. I let her in. Not because I trusted her, but because I wanted to see what she'd say. We sat in the kitchen. She talked about her job, about maybe moving back to Charleston. Said she wanted to be closer to what matters. I kept quiet, nodding here and there. Finally, I asked, do you remember when Dad caught you going through his papers? Her face froze. What? He wrote about it. In his journal. He left proof. She stood up fast. What are you talking about? I found everything. The emails, the recording. The whole file. She went pale. then defensive. You don't know what that means. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you tried to steal from him. You think you're better than me? Just because you stayed here? Because you wiped drool off his chin while I actually lived a life. I stood too. No. I think I respected him. I think I showed up when it mattered. You didn't. She stared at me, breathing hard, and then turned and left without saying another word. I haven't called her. I haven't decided what to do yet. But I know one thing, this isn't over. 3 days after she stormed out, Olivia sent a letter. Not a text, not an email, an actual handwritten letter delivered in a thick white envelope. The handwriting was rushed, shaky, nothing like the poised cursive she used to show off when we were kids. Inside were 2 pages. The first was an apology. Long-winded. She claimed she was under pressure, that she made bad choices, that grief made her act irrationally. She wrote that she didn't expect to be forgiven right away, but hoped I'd understand her perspective. She didn't deny what she did, just tried to reframe it like some sort of desperate mistake. The second page was stranger. It said, "If you don't want to forgive me, fine. But there's something you need to know. Dad wasn't as perfect as you think. He kept secrets. You might want to look into 1998. That year changed everything. Ask around. Check his old safe. He had one hidden in the floorboards under the guest room bed. You think you know everything, but you don't." That shook me. The guest room hadn't been touched in months. I went upstairs immediately, pulled the bed frame away from the wall, and rolled up the rug. The hardwood floor looked solid, but there it was, a faint outline of a square, with a small groove near one corner. I used a flathead screwdriver to wedge it open. Inside the compartment was a small metal safe. Old and dusty, like it hadn't been touched in years. The dial was worn smooth. I stared at it for a while, unsure what I'd even find. I called Thompson again. He came over with a locksmith the next day. Took them about 15 minutes to crack it open. Inside were several items, a stack of old photos, a brown envelope, and a sealed letter addressed to my children. I took the envelope first. It was filled with receipts, legal documents, and a birth certificate. But not mine. Not Olivia's. It was for a girl named Natalie Joy Hargrove. Born, January 1998. Mother, Sarah L. Hargrove. Father, Franklin Hargrove. My dad. I just sat there, reading it over and over. There was another document too. Child support records, notarized agreements, bank transfers. He'd been supporting this child, this other daughter, for years. Quietly. Legally. And no one knew. Not Mom. Not Olivia. Not me. The sealed letter explained it all. He met Sarah before Mom died. It wasn't an affair. They connected at a grief group for spouses of cancer patients. He didn't know what it would turn into. Sarah got pregnant. She moved to Asheville, said she didn't want to ruin his family, but they stayed in contact. He sent money. He wrote letters. He even visited when he could. After Mom died, he almost told us, but Olivia was graduating and I was starting college, and he didn't want to complicate our lives. The letter ended with this: "If this ever comes out, I hope you'll understand. I never stopped loving your mother. I just didn't stop living. Natalie deserves support. She still does. If she ever reaches out, be kind. She is your sister, even if you've never met." I couldn't process it. A whole sister we never knew existed. A lifetime of secret payments. Dad had another family in a way. And now Olivia knew, probably for a while. The twist in her letter wasn't to warn me or make peace. It was a threat. A reminder that she could still blow things up if she wanted. Thompson and I sat in silence for a while. "Do you think Olivia found out before he died?" I asked. He nodded slowly. Would explain her desperation. Maybe she thought if she didn't get the house, she'd get cut out entirely. Or worse, maybe she thought Natalie would get it all. But she didn't. "No, you did. Because he trusted you." My head was spinning. I needed to find Natalie. I wasn't sure what I'd say. I didn't know if she even knew we existed. But I had to know how deep the story went, because clearly, the story I thought I knew was just the surface. And Olivia? She knew the whole time. I found Natalie. It took a few weeks. The address from the child support documents was old. But after some digging, I tracked her down to a small town near Asheville, North Carolina. She was working at a local veterinary clinic, living a quiet life. I didn't tell her who I was in the first message. I just said I was trying to reach someone related to Sarah Hargrove. She called me the next day. Her voice was calm, polite, and curious. I asked if she had a moment to talk about her father. She went quiet. Then she said, "He passed away, didn't he?" I said yes. We met the following weekend at a coffee shop halfway between us. I brought the letter, the birth certificate, the pictures. I didn't need to say much. Once she saw Dad's handwriting, she cried. "He used to send postcards when I was little," she said. Then letters. Always told me he was proud of me, even if he couldn't be there. She said she stopped hearing from him about 3 years ago. Figured he got sick, or maybe his family told him to stop. He never told her about us. She never told anyone about him. We sat for 2 hours. She wasn't angry, just tired. Said she wished she'd had the chance to say goodbye. I asked if Olivia ever contacted her. Natalie blinked. Who? I showed her a picture of Olivia. Her face changed. Oh my God. That woman. She came here last year. She said she was a friend of my dad's. Asked a bunch of questions. Tried to get me to sign something. I didn't. It felt wrong. That was it. Olivia knew. She'd tracked Natalie down. Maybe to scare her. Maybe to keep her out of the picture. Or maybe to keep more for herself. I asked Natalie if she wanted to see the house, to walk through it, to see where our dad spent his final years. She said yes. She visited 2 weeks later. We walked the halls together. I showed her Dad's study, his chair, his favorite coffee mug still sitting on the shelf. She didn't take anything. Didn't ask for anything. Just stood in the middle of the living room and whispered, "I miss him." That night, I made my decision. I wrote a letter. Copied all the evidence. Scanned the receipts, the voice recording, the journal entries, Olivia's letter, everything. I sent it all to the Charleston Police Department's fraud unit. Then I called Olivia. Told her to come over. Told her there was something she needed to see. She showed up the next morning in a sleek black car, dressed like she was attending a press conference. Smiled like nothing had ever happened. I sat her down at the kitchen table and handed her a thick envelope. She flipped through the papers slowly. Her face didn't change much. She must have figured I'd find it all eventually. When she got to the photo of her standing outside Natalie's vet clinic, she froze. "You followed her?" "You threatened her," I said. "You really want to blow up the family over this?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "She's not even blood. She's more family than you've been." Olivia stood up, slapped the papers on the table. "You're going to regret this." I stared at her. "I already do." As she stormed out the front door, 2 police cruisers pulled into the driveway. She didn't even fight it. They read her rights. She looked back at me once, like she couldn't believe I actually did it. But I did. Fraud. Attempted identity theft. Coercion. They charged her with everything they could. She was out on bail in 2 days. Tried calling. Left me 3 voicemails. I didn't answer. The community found out fast. People whispered. The golden child of Charleston, caught trying to steal from her dying father and cover up his other daughter's existence. Some folks took her side, said I was cruel, said family should forgive. They didn't sit beside Dad for 5 years watching his hands shake while Olivia partied in Manhattan. I changed the locks. Natalie came back a week later. She brought flowers for Dad's grave. We stood together, 2 strangers with a complicated bond. "I don't want anything from you," she said. "I know," I said. "But maybe you deserve something anyway." I gave her one thing. The letter Dad wrote for his children. The one he addressed to both of us. I told her to keep it. A few months passed. The court case dragged on. Olivia took a plea deal. No jail time, but probation, community service, and a permanent mark on her record. She moved out of state. I don't know where. I kept the house. Kept the journal. Sometimes I read it when I miss him. He wasn't perfect, but he did his best. In the end, he tried to do the right thing. As for me, I made mistakes too. I let guilt keep me quiet for too long. I let anger run too deep. But I did what needed to be done. Because sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about making sure they don't get away with pretending they didn't.